Chapter 11. Was Solomon wise? When we got up, we turned over the truck that the gang had taken off the wreck. We found boots and blankets and clothes and a lot of books and a spyglass. All sorts of things. We had never been so rich before in our lives. We spent all that afternoon in the woods talking and having a good time. I told Jim all about what had happened inside the wreck. He said that was an adventure. Jim said he didn't want any more adventure. He said when he found the raft gone, he judged it was all up with him. He might get drowned, he might get saved, but whoever saved him would send him back home to get the reward, and then Miss Watson would sell him South Shore. Well, he was right. He generally was right. He had an uncommon level head. I read to Jim about kings and dukes and earls, and how they called each other your majesty, and your grace, and your lordship, instead of Mr. Jim's eyes bugged out. He was so interested. I didn't know they was so many of 'em, he said. I ain't heard much about none, 'cept that old King Solomon, and them kings in a pack of cards. How much pay do a king get? Why, they can get $1,000 a month. They can have just as much as they want. Everything belongs to them. Ain't that gay? And what have they got to do, Huck? Why, nothing. How do you talk? They just lazy around. Is that so? Of course it is. They just lazy around. Except maybe when they go to war. Other times when things get dull and don't go to suit them, they whack some heads off. But mostly they hang round the harem. Round the which? Harem. What's the harem? The place where he keeps his wives. Don't you know about the harem? Solomon had one. He had about 1,000,000 wives. A harem is a boarding house, I reckon. Most likely they has a rackety time in the nursery. And the wives quarrelin' all the time and addin' to the noise. They say Solomon was the wisest man that ever lived. I don't take no stock in that. Would a wise man want to live in such a racket all the time? No, 'deed he wouldn't. A wise man would build a boiler factory. He could shut that down when he want to rest. Well, but he was the wisest man. The widow told me so herself. Why, once when 2 women went to him to decide which was the mother of a child, they both claimed. You know what Solomon said? No. What he say? He said, "Chop the child in 2, and each of you take half." And did they do it? No. One woman said she didn't even want half of the child. Said the other woman could have it all. Well, that is the beatenest notion in the world. You just take a look at that a minute. Suppose I's Solomon. You come in, you is one of the women, and that stump is the other woman. This here dollar bill is the child. You both claims it. What does I do? Does I shin round among the neighbors to find out who the bill do belong to and hand it over to the right one, like anybody with gumption would do? No, I whacks the bill in 2 and gives half to you and half to her. Now what use is half a bill? Can't buy nothing with it. And what use is half a child? I wouldn't give a dern for 1,000,000 of 'em. But hang it, Jim, you missed the point. Don't talk to me about your points. I reckon I know sense when I see it, and they ain't no sense in any such doings as that. The quarrel wasn't about half a child. It was about a whole child. The man that tries to settle a quarrel about a whole child by offering half a child, he don't know enough to come in out of the rain. Don't talk to me about Solomon being a wise man. But I tell you, you don't get the point. Yes, I gets the point. I gets the real point. The real point is down deeper. It lays in the way Solomon lived. A man with only 1 or 2 children ain't going to be wasteful of 'em. He can't afford it. But a man with about 5,000,000 children running round a house is different. He would as soon chop a child in 2 as a cat. A child or 2 more or less wasn't nothing to Solomon. Dad fetch him. If Jim got a notion in his head once, there was no getting it out again. So I went on talking about other kings and let Solomon slide. I told him about Louis XVI that got his head cut off in France long time ago. And about his little boy, the dolphin, that they took out and shut up in jail. But some say he got out and came to America. But they ain't no kings here, is they, Huck? No. Then he can't get no job. What are you going to do? Well, I don't know. Some of them get on the police force, and some teach people how to talk French. Why, Huck, don't the French talk the same way we does? No, Jim. You couldn't understand a word they say, not a single word. Suppose a man comes up to you and says, Parlez-vous français? What would you think? I wouldn't think nothing. I'd just take and bust him over the head if he wasn't white. I wouldn't let him call me that. Shucks, that's the Frenchman's way of saying, do you know how to talk French? And a blame silly way. Ain't no sense in it. Looky here, Jim. Does a cat talk the same way we do? No. Well, does a cow? No. And it's natural and right for a cat and a cow to talk different from us? Of course. Then why can't it be natural and right for a Frenchman to talk different from us? You answer me that. Is a cat a man, Huck? No. Is a cow a man? No. Well then, there ain't no sense in them talking like a man. Is a Frenchman a man? Yes. Well then, Dad blame it, why don't he talk like a man? You answer me that. I see it weren't no use wasting words, so I quit.